This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. The major pay-per-view we're coming off of, as we mentioned, is Wrestlemania 6, where we saw the Ultimate Warrior win the world title from Hulk Hogan. We did a full show on that probably like 3 years ago, available in the archives at somethingtowrestle.com. We're also on the heels of a Saturday night's main event, which we just recently did a show on a few weeks ago. Speaking of Warrior, he's going to be making his first high profile title defense here. He'll be defending the title in a steel cage at SummerSlam 1990 against a former rival of his, the man who actually beat him for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 5, Ravishing Rick Rude. Meanwhile, our hero for, I don't know, what feels like nearly a decade here, Hulk Hogan, will be making his long awaited return to the ring after a storyline injury at SummerSlam 1990. Of course, he's going to be taking on the man who put him on the shelf, Earthquake. We've got lots of news and notes as we head into this, but I do want to talk a little bit about Ravishing Rick Rude. This feels like the first major test for Warrior, you know, in sort of the post Hogan era after WrestleMania. It's his first pay-per-view. And of all the opponents, we choose Ravishing Rick Rude. Now, we've done a great profile on Ravishing Rick Rude in the archives, also available at somethingtowrestle.com. But we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Rude today. Why was Ravishing Rick Rude the right guy to showcase the skills and talents of your brand new champion?
We knew that Rick was the right guy because Rick had been able to do it with Warrior before. And it was an opportunity to put Rick into that upper echelon where Rick felt he should be. Frankly, where we all felt that he should be too. Warrior and Rude had good chemistry in the ring, and there was no, it was an opportunity here for Rick to come out, and it was a coming out party for Rick Rude too. And it wasn't just Warrior's first title defense. This was the first time seeing Rick Rude in a top spot, being able to carry that. And I think that Rick did carry it. And I think that Rick was an unbelievable talent, especially in his ability to get guys like Warrior over.
What's so fascinating to me about this is, and we're going to talk a lot about Rude today, but I thought he just had a home run performance here. I liked the training montage video that got us here with Rick Rude. I liked his new look, which we talked a lot about, cutting the hair, getting rid of the mustache. Talk us through how he really changed his presentation. It does feel like he's updating himself, and he goes from looking like 1985 to very much, the way you would want a wrestler to look probably in 1990.
Yeah. Rick got himself in incredible shape, in a very short period of time. Rick was looking at the time, and I think this is when he had his son, in this time frame, but good Lord, I remember going down to Tampa to meet with him and shoot vignettes with Bobby Heenan and Rude. And it was just a physical transformation and almost a mental transformation for him as well, to come in and just absolutely be on fire. And Rick Rude delivered it. I, in my opinion, didn't disappoint, didn't make anybody second guess anything at all in that return to go with Warrior. I thought he did a hell of a job.
Well, I want to come back to that, but first I do want to mention, you've told us before that Rude, Warrior wasn't his favorite person. And I think he may have even taken it personally, the way Warrior handled him, or maybe didn't handle him, because I think you sort of alluded to the fact that maybe once before, when Warrior was working with Andre back when he was Intercontinental Champion, out of respect, he would bring Andre a bottle of wine or something like that and thank him for the match. Meanwhile, Andre really didn't have to do much in those matches, but he did carry a lot of respect. But you compare the effort that Andre put out versus the effort that Rick Rude put out, and Rick Rude was doing cartwheels for the Warrior And I think he commented to you something like, I never got a thank you. I never even got a Gatorade. Was Warrior, what was the Warrior Rude relationship like? Were they oil and water? Did Rude have any respect for him? Had these guys fallen out of favor before the bell ever rang here at the pay-per-view?
Rude knew what his job was, and Rude knew that he was there to get this guy over. That was his job. But did Rude like him and or like that? No, he didn't. And Rude did feel disrespected and felt as if I'm doing all this work for you and you're reaping all the reward. So I think, yeah, a little resentment might be accurate.
Well, the thing that always gets me about this is, and Lord, we talked about this a lot when we covered Rick Rude, and I can't help but bring it up again. But why didn't get more opportunities like this? As far as I know, in a singles match, not a Survivor Series, big team situation. This is Rude's only pay-per-view main event with the company, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm just fascinated by, and we've often heard that the company would be booked sort of year to year. It feels like a logical thing that Rick Rude would have been on the short list of potential main event pay-per-view attractions for WrestleMania. And instead of us thinking, hey, maybe Hogan Rude or Warrior Rude at WrestleMania, we need a heel Sergeant Slaughter. I don't know. It just feels like Rick Rude versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania could have been big money for 7. It wouldn't have been as controversial as the Iraq thing. It would have been as hokey as Sergeant Slaughter turning heel. And at the end of the day, who would have given Hogan a better match? Sergeant Slaughter in 1991 or Rick Rude? Like, to me, Rick Rude would be the prototype of the type of guy who would sell his ass off and make everything Hogan did look incredible, but he never got that opportunity. Did Vince not see him at that level?
I don't know if it wasn't seeing him at that level. I think that when you look at it, where it matched up, did Rude have better chemistry, proven chemistry with Ultimate Warrior, and to be able to give Warrior his first big win as the champion, which is just as important to the general audience in his first big profile match? I'd argue that that was more important than a WrestleMania match with Hulk Hogan.
So main eventing SummerSlam with Warrior to you is more important than main eventing WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan?
At that time, for the Warrior and for the business, yes, because it was a building process.
Well, I'm not saying that Rude wasn't doing his thing to help make the Warrior. It just feels odd to me that we've got one of the greatest heels of all time. I mean, when you think about great heels of the 80s or 90s and just like your prototype heel, Rude and Hogan never crossed streams, and that doesn't make sense to me. It feels like there's got to be more to the story, and maybe there's not, but it at least feels like a missed opportunity, especially when you think about how well Rick Rude did on shows like Arsenio Hall and Regis and Kathy Lee. It feels like in a little press tour to try to promote WrestleMania, he could have been fantastic. And if we had to freestyle the Hogan thing for a minute, what if, Rick Rude were to try to do something with Linda Hogan, much like he had with Jake's wife before, the whole laying the big kiss on him and Rude awakening and the whole deal. Do you think Hogan was not cool with that? And maybe that's the reason it got pushed aside or we never saw it? Because, man, knowing what we know about Linda Hogan now, it feels like she would have eaten that up, the opportunity to be on camera and perform. I mean, 15 years from now, she's going to have a reality show.
Yeah, but that was before its time in that regard. And this time, this wasn't about Hogan. This was about Warrior. This was about a time of building the Ultimate Warrior to be the next guy. And you needed people for him to work with that would get him over in the right way. And Rick Rude was that guy.
Well, I mean, I think Rick Rude does a great job here is my point, but Warrior's going to have the belt for one more pay-per-view. And then at the following one, he's dropping it. So it feels like we're pivoting away from Warrior because we don't think that we can really count on him for the next WrestleMania. I mean, Survivor Series sort of is what it is. There's going to be a bunch of teams, but his next singles match on pay-per-view is against Sergeant Slaughter. Of course, the Macho Man's going to interfere and crown him. And now we've got a new champ and it's Sergeant Slaughter, but it is just fun for me to sort of fantasy book. What if that happened with Rick Rude? And same thing, just put Rude in the Slaughter spot. I think WrestleMania 7 could have been badass.
A lot of what ifs there.
Let's talk about how we get into the next match. It's Hulk Hogan and Earthquake. As Hogan was being interviewed on the Brother Love show on the May 26 Superstars, he's then attacked by Earthquake. Earthquake's going to hit Hogan with a chair and then hit him with the big Earthquake splash. And then Hogan was taken from the stage on a stretcher. And he didn't appear on WWF programming for nearly 2 months. And the company's even going to tease his possible retirement. On the July 14th Superstars, Hogan reveals that he is going to return against Earthquake at SummerSlam. Tugboat is supposed to be in his corner during the match, but he's attacked by Earthquake and Dino on the August 18th Superstars and receives 2 Earthquake splashes himself before being saved by his pal, the Big Boss Man. Tugboat is also carried out on a stretcher, and his kayfabe injuries are preventing him from appearing at SummerSlam, and therefore Big Boss Man replaces Tugboat in that role. Meltzer would say, "Here's the story on Tugboat as best I can figure it. The TV injury angle that aired this weekend tied up all the loose ends and is the explanation. However, all inside the company publicity for not public knowledge is that Tugboat is going to be at SummerSlam and at all these shows. So even though it's technically just an angle, it was not an angle planned out far in advance. Word is that Tugboat's quick rise to stardom swelled his head and Vince was giving him an attitude adjustment. And at the same time, building a grudge for Tugboat versus Earthquake matches in the fall. Tugboat is still with the company, but not making any dates, nor will he be at SummerSlam. In addition, Boss Man has been pulled as the special guest referee in the Roberts Brown match, which again shows that this is late improvising and not part of the original master plan. This is something I hadn't read before, that Tugboat's quick rise to stardom swelled his head and Vince is giving him an attitude adjustment. You've told us before that maybe one of the original ideas was Chic Tugboat. Talk to me a little bit about what really happened here and why Tugboat wasn't here at SummerSlam.
Well, what really happened is we got into Sarge, and Sarge being the heel and Sarge coming in as the Iraqi sympathizer. So the focus then had to move over there as Earthquake, Tugboat just didn't fit into that equation anymore. I can't say that I ever heard that there was whatever the hell lies Meltzer was saying there about Tugboat. I've never really heard that before.
Why move away from that though? Like, why do the injury angle and not have him here and replace him with Boss Man? I don't follow the logic if what Meltzer's saying isn't true.
Well, anything Meltzer says isn't true. Name something that he has said that's true.
Let's not get down that. Here's what I'm saying.
Well, you just said why would it be if because saying true?
You haven't given me a logical explanation as to why Tugboat's
the
not
logical
here.
explanation is that the idea behind the Tugboat, if you continued along that road of being Hogan's best friend and what have you, then what do you do with him? The idea was originally he's Hogan's best friend. He turns on Hogan to go to WrestleMania. Now you're not going to do that because you have a bona fide heel in Sergeant Slaughter already made that is a better attraction going into WrestleMania. So you need to get rid of the other guy at this point. And unfortunately for Tugboat, that's the situation he found himself in. He wasn't getting up to par, and he was a big guy, impressive son of a bitch, and one hell of a nice guy to boot. So it was an unfortunate situation for him, but that's all it was. I'm
having trouble with the timeline, I guess, is the thing. Like, we know that Chic Tugboat is something you've told us about before, but just this month in August of 1990 is when the whole Kuwait thing happened. By the end of the month, he's not even involved in the situation anymore.
That's how fast it happens.
So the Chic Tugboat thing was pitched in weeks later, when you decide, no, we're not doing that. We're going to go with Slaughter. I guess that's my point. I'm trying to drill down. You knew at this point, we're going to have Hogan Slaughter at WrestleMania 7.
That's what you're going to build to. Yes.
Okay.
That's the whole reason for bringing Slaughter back as a heel.
It's just, you know, I know we started the show talking about him, but I just can't help but circle back to it. If I'm looking at my most marquee match for WrestleMania 7, my first idea wouldn't have been Hogan Tugboat. My second idea wouldn't have been Hogan Slaughter. I would have landed on the third idea that never happened. Hogan Rude. Come on, man.
You got Rude going in and working with Warrior and getting Warrior over.
I know. No, I'm not saying here. I'm saying at WrestleMania.
I understand that. But Rude was being used to build your new champion at that point. You didn't want Hogan going after somebody that Warrior had already picked.
What did Rude do at WrestleMania 7?
I have no idea.
Nothing. He's not even on the
go.
card. We got Earthquake and Hulk Hogan going to a double count out.
Here's what I think you should do. This was seriously. You should buy a wrestling promotion, and you and Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller and Dave's little sidekick. You can make him your world champion, and y'all all book all the shit. And I want you to put all that Conrad money into it, and let Meltzer put all of his money into it in his extremely genius mind, and have everybody come over from Japan, and y'all just God, from the sounds of it, shit, he's a genius, so he could book, and you would be printing money.
You know, let me just apologize right now for being a fan of Rick Rude. That's my bad. I didn't realize it was going to piss you off so bad today.
I'm a fan of Rick Rude too. I loved Rick.
Okay. Well, you're hot about me being a fan of Rick Rude.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Not.
Earthquake beats Earthquake by count out. Earthquake beats Earthquake. Let me try that for the third time. Hulk Hogan beat Earthquake by count out. You must be
reading the Observer again.
I'm not. Jesus Christ. Can we fucking stop? Why are you so cantankerous about anything with Meltzer?
Because I can't stand him.
Then what are we going to do on the goddamn show if you're just being a petulant child?
Well, I know I'm going to set the record straight is what I'm going to do.
By the way, if you want to hear what really happened at WrestleMania 7 from Bruce's side, that's available in the archives. It's a hell of a story about security issues, because this Sergeant Slaughter business with a terrible buy rate and ratings was just so hot. After the match, Hogan does an interview where he basically guarantees he's going to wrestle Warrior at WrestleMania. And I think that may have even been the original plan, leaving 6, because the poster you guys released, that's pretty rare, that I'm lucky enough to have one of, and I know you've got somewhere. It's got the LA Coliseum, and it's got a series of flags on the Coliseum. The WWF flag, the WrestleMania 7 flag, a Hulk Hogan flag, and an Ultimate Warrior flag. Was the original idea thinking, hey, we'll do these guys at 6 and then come back with it at 7, but the buy rate was disappointing? Did Warriors run not really meet expectations? Why the pivot? Because it still feels like that's there was
no pivot. It was never the plan to do Hogan and Warrior 2. There was no pivot. You take your 2 biggest stars and you put them on the poster.
Okay.
But then the guy that thinks that he knows it all, well, this is exactly what they're doing. So they Clint from Hershey can say, they figured it all out because they have them on there. So that's exactly what they're going to do. And if they do anything different than that, then it must be a scandal. No, it was 2 biggest stars in the company. That's why their logos were up there.
What'd you think of Hogan's promo after? You didn't think that was a tease for the Warrior?
I think it was Hulk Hogan being Hulk Hogan and talking about what he would naturally talk about. And when you look at exactly what happened, it all comes to fruition, because it was Hogan in his quest for the WWE Championship.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.